everybody, what's up, and welcome to another episode of Pop Issue. I'm with Todd Marks, who is the head of MindGrub. I happen to be in Baltimore today, and I'm going to talk with him a little bit about the convergence of politics, particularly donations, and mobile, because this is a really hot space, and I don't think we have begun to see how it's going to go just yet. So, Todd, welcome to the program. Tell me a little bit about MindGrub and what you guys do.
MindGrub's a technology innovation agency. We started in my basement 4 years ago when iPhone released its SDK and development environment. And it was tough going in the beginning, but we netted a couple really big clients, and we're now the biggest mobile agency in the area. And we specialize in more than just mobile. It's mobile, social, web, and mobile gaming.
So you guys have really got it like all down, and then there's a ton of like guys downstairs, all young, with like double monitors and everything.
You got it, yeah.
And of course, I guess some of them are working on what you told me is a mobile app that's going to be used by the GOP somehow. Can you tell me a little bit about this?
Yeah, I can at a very high level. I can speak to it, but it's actually a third-party site focused on politics. And the thing they came to us for is that we've been enabling a lot of apps to have citizen journalism. So you can contribute video, you contribute audio, images, whatever it is. And the news media as an industry has been really slow getting late-breaking news. And now you see things getting broken by people with cell phone video cameras.
Definitely.
So they're kind of following that motif of users being able to capture news as it's happening. But right now, your outlet is YouTube.
Right.
So what they're producing is an outlet for citizens to capture news content and put it directly onto a site where other users can see it.
And you said this will be released within this week?
It's supposed to be this week, yeah.
So we're going to have to definitely look out for it.
Yeah, you'll have to look out for it. Once it's live, we'll give you some more links to it.
Very good.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you particularly about this because I think we're starting to see with each year, kind of the convergence more with the kind of public policy world and mobile. They've been a little bit slow, when you look at maybe the entertainment sector or media sector.
Yeah.
And a lot of young people are obviously, they've been, kind of ready for this. And so I wanted to ask you what you thought about really what's going on right now with the federal election communication board saying that, fine, great, it's all good for SMS, text donations for the candidates, and then the carriers kind of pushing back, and now we seem to be in limbo. What are your thoughts on that, just because everybody is on, his or her mobile device, and how is this affecting kind of politics from a tech point of view?
Absolutely. Tech certainly would enable that. You could do it technologically. Do people want it or not? That's probably the issue. There's very few people that really want politicians calling their house on Sunday asking for handouts, even if you are registered with a party. And I think it makes a lot of sense to try to get, more donations from the masses. So instead of trying to get a few whales, or a big organization to come together like these super committees to give big amounts of funds, they're trying to figure out a way to get a broader base of people giving donations. And obviously mobile, everyone now who might be in position to give any donation has a mobile device in their pocket. So certainly technologically you could use SMS, you could have in-app purchases, you could have a portal that you pull in as a web view, all additional vehicles to get money.
Right.
But there's a couple caveats to that. So people don't like advertising at all. Generally on a website, if you have a big ad in the middle, people don't even look at it. They try to avoid that. So with politics in particular, each party has a really energized base. And I'd say if you are getting the message out to your energized base and they just haven't known how to give a donation before, maybe they're not even web savvy, maybe they are really politically enthused but they're not much of an internet user, there's a good chance they still have a smartphone. So technologically it makes a lot of sense to be able to get some donations from those users. I'd say if it's your energized base, then they're not going to be offended by it. If you're in the mall walking around saying, hey, give a donation, or you have Square or Swipe technology, and you're walking around the mall trying to essentially solicit people for donations, that's just foolish because particularly the younger generations right now, they want to be really calling the shots, and they want to be empowered. We don't like salesmen. We as a company don't have salespeople here. It's entirely word of mouth. It's entirely people that know we deliver a good product and want to work with us. It's not because we're making cold calls and saying you need to work with us for whatever differentiators have to do around monetization of the app. So.
But talk to me a little bit about, and this is really kind of crystal ball-ish.
Yeah.
But why do you think the carriers have taken the position that they have, since pretty much everybody in the space is in agreement that it's a great idea? And what do you think the future is going to be on
I think it's a good idea with your energized base if you are at a convention and everybody's there for your party.
But if the carrier won't permit, this kind of the transaction to take place, what do you think is actually going to happen? Do you think that I don't know, there'll be different, maybe lobbying going on from some of the startups, certainly like yourself? Do you see anything kind of happening with that, in the future? Because the consumer is as I said, just right there. And
no, because this is not a consumer-driven initiative. So the thing about mobile technology, you had the BlackBerry, and businesses used to provide a BlackBerry for the consumer, essentially for their employees. And they would buy the device and say, here you go, now check your email. When iPhone changed everything, when it came out, it was a consumer-driven model. So it was the consumer that was going out and buying the iPhones, and then they're showing up at a business and saying, hey, look, I have an iPhone, and the business is scrambling to figure out how to leverage that. As far as trying to solicit people for donations, that's not consumer-driven. Consumers aren't saying, man, I really wish I could donate, but I don't have an avenue to do it.
Right.
Because you can. Just go to any political party website and you can go donate money. So they already have the avenue. So things that take off in mobile are consumer-driven, not top-down business or political party-driven. So if the consumers are chomping at the bit to give SMS donations, sure, then consumers would say, hey, I'm going to switch to T-Mobile because Verizon, you're not allowing me to give to my political party.
Right.
But it's not consumer-driven.
So do you think that it will ever be? Or pretty much this is a done deal?
Yes. E-commerce in general will be done a lot more on smartphones than they are. If you look in Asian countries, they use near-field communication.
Right.
I was in Toronto last week, and they actually now don't just have the magnetic readers on their cards, they actually have a chip, and you insert it
Which is so much
and use
better,
a chip.
just like in Europe.
And well, in Europe and Asian countries, they actually have near-field communication, so I don't even need a card. I can use my phone, and I can basically just be close to the cash register, and it'll make a transaction. In African countries, they're using SMS to buy things.
Sure.
Because they don't have credit cards at all. They either have cash, or what they have is a carrier plan right now. And the carrier plan is a way for them to put money on a
like
plan,
M-Pesa and all that.
and
but
to be able to
kind
use
of bring
it.
Though back to the political realm, and I know we've seen a lot of
where I'm going
wonderfully
is we're
done
behind in
e-commerce,
the U.S.
But in terms of politics, do you think it will be something that is seen as really a necessity?
Well, there's convergence. So right now, it is happening that people are starting to use mobile devices for payment transactions. There is the smartphone market in the U.S. is entirely consumer-based. At some point, the people who already make donations to political parties, most of them, people that are doing it, are 30 up to much older generations. When the 18 to 30-year-olds get a little older, not this election I would say, but in a next election or the election after that, when they're a little bit older and all they make is smartphone payments,
then you see
and they're empowered by their base and they want to contribute, but they're saying, hey, I don't use a desktop. What's that thing? It's like gone the way of the 8-track. I only use a smartphone. Then absolutely there'll be that tipping point where that younger generation, when they're already motivated to make donations, they only use smartphones, and at this point they don't have the ability to do it. The consumer will demand that.
Interesting.
And it will happen. Right now it's probably the political parties looking at it as an additional way to get donations, and they're trying to ask for it, and the carriers, albeit they're big business and they're trying to monetize it, they're not the ones that are directly getting the revenues from it. So there's no reason for them to really enable this, and it might actually be a turnoff to their base because it's not a consumer-driven model. Anytime the consumer's like, I want that newest iPhone 5, Verizon right now, the iPhone 5 is supposedly coming out next month. They're rearranging their store to plan for it because consumer wants it.
Right.
But they don't monetize SMS payments themselves.
Well, they make a little bit on every
maybe they make a little bit, but it's,
which is why they made some changes about a year ago about how the content developer would have to pay for these things and stuff. But yeah,
it's contentious. I don't, if there was a carrier that was extremely aligned with a particular political party,
then it'd probably be like...
And they also thought their base was very aligned with that political party, the stars might align this election.
Yeah, interesting.
But until the consumer demands it, the carriers probably don't want to be the first one to take that risk.
Interesting.
Because if their base, if it's a particular party asking for that capability and part of their consumers aren't part of that political party, it could turn them off to a different carrier.
Well, and then let me just ask you this final question, which, I think some of you guys are familiar with Square, some not. Of course, the founder of Twitter created this kind of device, if you will, that it connects to your phone. You can take credit card payments. Some of the candidate parties are beginning to use this. What are your thoughts just, on that?
I think it's great. If you have a convention and you have a booth and it says, help us win, give $5 now.
Yep.
And they're standing there with a square and everybody can just swipe a card, move on, swipe a card, move on, swipe a card. Great. I think that's the best in right now.
Yeah.
Because you already have the consumer that's there and they just need that easy avenue. It's more difficult if they have to walk up to a kiosk or type in credit card information, or afterwards they have to go home and remember to donate. But if you're there with an empowered base and you're just looking for $5, sure, people swipe a credit card.
So we might be seeing this more and more, who knows, on the street, wherever, like you said, at conventions, at certain areas,
the street,
who knows?
The convention with an empowered base, but if you're walking the street, I think your conversion rate is going to be a lot less. Unless you're in if you're cruising around Texas saying, hey, Romney really needs $5, or you're cruising around Baltimore City and saying Obama needs $5, you might be able to get it.
Right.
If you're just in Mall of America,
you never know.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Todd. I really appreciate it. Everybody, I'm glad that you were able to tune in. Stay tuned for tomorrow's episode. Thank you so much. Lauren DeLisa Coleman for the GlassLDC.com site.